Alright, the topic I will be discussing today is NFL, and more specifically the NFL draft. Now, for some of you who are not familiar with the NFL draft, I'll go over some of the basics. The draft gives NFL teams opportunity to offer amateur football players a contract with their team. Most of these players come straight out of college. So the draft consists of 7 rounds, and in each round, teams take turns making their picks. And the order the teams choose is determined by the record of the previous season. Worst team choosing first, and the best team being the Super Bowl champions pick last. So as you just heard, the draft is set up so teams can improve themselves through these picks. Which this leads me to my claim, being that the NFL draft does not help teams improve themselves. My first secondary claim will be that the draft forces teams to offer big contracts to early draftees. And second, rookies are not guaranteed to succeed in the NFL. My first and fourth claim, the draft forces teams to offer big contracts to early draftees. Here's a quote from 2008 first-round draftee Darren McFadden. Teams just have to pay us. If they don't feel like they can pass us up, says McFadden, it's just something they have to do. It's like a big gamble. Well, this came from an interview found on ESPNmagazine.com. So his confidence comes from the NFL overvaluing early draft picks. Alright, I have a chart here that shows the value for each of 224 picks in the draft. While the number 1 pick is worth 3,000 points, the 10th pick is only worth 1,300 points. Only 10 picks into the draft and only 10 picks into a draft of over 200, and the value has already halved. By the end of the first round, the value of the next pick is 580 points, just over 1/6 of the value of the first pick. If you keep going to the later rounds, the difference between early round and late round picks becomes smaller. But the main problem is the difference between the first round and the rest of the draft. This becomes a problem for teams in multiple ways. One way is the first round draft picks sign huge contracts. Last year, first overall pick Jake Long signed a 5-year, $57.75 million contract, which included $30 million in guaranteed money. In 2007, Jamarcus Russell signed a $61 million contract with $32 million in guaranteed money. And in 2006, Mario Williams signed a 6-year, $54 million contract with $26.5 million in guaranteed money. And all these numbers can be found at rotoworld.com by searching for the players. The amount of money players receive depends on their position, with quarterbacks and running backs receiving the most money. These big contracts lead to salary cap issues for teams where a player does not live up to expectations because of the guaranteed money in each of the contracts. So even if a player is dropped from a team, they will receive the guaranteed money in the contract, obviously because it's guaranteed. So if a player is dropped from a team, the team will need to replace him. But since they are still paying for the dropped player, they have less money to spend on new players. Another problem is the disparity between the first round and the rest of the draft causes trade difficulties. If a team does not want to risk their first round pick becoming a bust, the only way to avoid this would be to trade the pick with another team. But since early first round picks are worth so much, another team would have to put up multiple picks to make the trade fair. While this has happened, it is not something that teams don't normally do. So on to my second claim. First round draft picks are not guaranteed to succeed in the NFL. I'll be looking at the number 1 overall pick from the drafts from the years 1995 to 2005. So in 1995, T. Janet Carter was chosen as the first round pick. He had an 8-year career, but it was plagued by injuries, and his stats of 319 carries and 1,144 yards are something that top running backs do in a single season. The 1996 pick, Keyshawn Johnson, had a solid career and was selected to 4 Pro Bowls along the way, but has been criticized for his lack of longevity, lasting only 11 seasons in the league. The 1997 pick, Orlando Payton, has had a great year at St. Louis, a great career at St. Louis, being picked to 7 Pro Bowls out of his 12 years. In 1998, Peyton Manning, obviously one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, has also had a great career. In 1999, Tim Couch was picked as the #1 pick by the Cleveland Browns. And he's thrown more interceptions than touchdowns in his 5-year career that ended due to injuries, with a starting record of 22 and 37. Courtney Brown, another pick by the Browns, had another career plagued by injuries, with 7 seasons in the NFL that are commonly surpassed by defensive players. Michael Vick, also an impressive career, but he now sits in jail because of the controversies he was part of in 2002, David Carr, with a record of 22-53 as a starter, also has thrown more interceptions than touchdowns. Carson Palmer, picked in 2003, has had a good career, but was set back this year due to injury. Eli Manning, in 2004, was criticized early in his career and was overshadowed by his more successful older brother, but in 2008, he led the Giants to a win over the undefeated Patriots, completing one of the biggest upsets in NFL history. As you can see, in these 10 years, 5 players have been considered bust, each for their own reasons. But for a team to have to pay such a large amount of money for a player who might do good is a big reason the NFL draft does not help teams.
Thank you. All right, well, you ID the